Well, good afternoon, everyone, and we are here to announce a new partnership to speed the progress that cities are making cutting carbon emissions. Remember that 50% of the world lives in cities, soon to be 70% in the next 2 decades. So cities are where the big problem is. This brings together Google, one of the world's biggest companies, with Bloomberg Philanthropies, and the Global Covenant of Mayors, the world's largest coalition of cities fighting climate change, through a new initiative called Innovate4Cities. I have been glad to serve as co-chair of the Mayors Group along with European Commission Vice President Maroš Šefčovič, who really has shown a lot of leadership on this issue. And the group includes more than 9,100 cities in 120 countries, and together we think they can really make a very big difference. Just to give you an idea, the Global Covenant of Cities are on target to collectively reduce 1.4 billion tons of CO2 emissions by the year 2030. To put that in perspective, that is the equivalent of taking 276 million cars off the road, about a fifth of all the cars that are in the world right now. The more cities know about where these emissions and climate impacts come from, the faster and more effectively they can work to reduce them. And we saw that right here in New York. When I was mayor of New York City created the first ever inventory of greenhouse gas emissions. And now this effort will help thousands more cities take carbon inventories instantly and at zero cost for taxpayers by giving them access to a wealth of new data. This data belongs to Google, but through this partnership they are making it available to city governments for the first time. And that way cities can spend less time measuring emissions and more time in cutting them. For instance, Google traffic data can be used to calculate a city's total emissions from cars. Google mapping data can be used to calculate the total emissions from buildings, as well as cities' potential for installing more rooftop solar panels. And these are just a few examples. Google will also develop new tools and insights based on the data to help cities make smart investments in transportation, clean energy, and more. Bloomberg Philanthropies is glad to support this effort. We have a saying at the foundation, if you cannot measure it, you can't manage it. And this partnership will do a lot to help cities manage their carbon footprints. It will make a big difference for our cities and for the people living in them. And I think it's a great example of public-private partnerships that can help tackle this challenge and of the important role that the private sector can play. With Washington apparently asleep at the wheel, it's more important than ever for businesses and cities to step up the fight against climate change. And I'll point out they are delivering. Last year, with no help from Washington, U.S. emissions fell to their lowest level in 25 years. And the U.S. is nearly halfway to our Paris goal of cutting emissions by at least 26% by the year 2025. So I'm confident that we will finish this job, and the more that the public and private partnerships can work together, the faster we can make progress. So with that, let me introduce the co-chair of the Global Covenant and our partner on the Innovative4Cities effort, Maroš Šefčovič.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Mike. Let me also start by appreciating your really driving force push, which we need so much in our global effort to tackle climate change, and how much we in Europe appreciate your drive here in the United States of America, what you do with the cities, how you motivate the corporate leaders, and what kind of positive results, thanks to that energy, we can see coming from the United States despite the withdrawal from the Paris Agreement, which of course we regret a lot. But today we came here to speak about how more efficient we could be in tackling the climate change. And we discovered a completely new world when we decided to work as closely as possible with the global networks of the cities. We discovered the mayors are our best allies in tackling climate change, and that there is a huge potential what we can do together. Cities, as you know, consume 75% of global energy, and they also emit 80% of greenhouse gas generated by the human activities. And therefore, it's so important to have mayors on the board, because they are the first to tell you how they have to tackle air pollution, how they have to tackle traffic congestions, and how important it is to manage waste in a sustainable green way. At the same time, I'm glad that the mayors developed these new roles for themselves. They are helping us to transform the cities in the genuine engines of innovation. They are becoming kind of incubators for innovative solutions. Let's take e-mobility, energy storage, or smart or efficient buildings or waste management as the examples. And therefore we decided to work with them as closely as possible, because what we need to tackle climate change more efficiently, we need precise knowledge, we need to have good data, and of course we have to deploy the smart technologies. And once we know what to do, we need to have a good platforms how to channel investment in promotion of this good project. In March, together with Mike, we launched a call for global city research and innovation agenda. In simple words, we decided to orient our research to the city's real need. And what we did was that we actually asked the mayors to talk directly to the scientists when we had our Mission Innovation Summit in Malmo, and to tell them what they would need in their cities, how they would need to better manage traffic, what they would need in the field of smart buildings, or what scientific world can offer in better waste management. And that was also the topic of a discussion we had with Rebecca a couple of minutes ago, and we thought that it would be also a good new task for our global secretariat, for the Global Covenant of Mayors, that maybe this time we could do the same. We can get the mayors to talk directly to the data providers and tell them what kind of data, what pre-selection, what analysis, what analytics they would need so they can tailor-make their policy better in the future. As you know, we in the European Union are the owners of what I believe is the best Earth observation program, Copernicus, and our satellites are one of the best data provider on this planet. And therefore we are very glad that we can work also with a company like Google to work on this data, and I hope that after talking to our mayors, we also would be able to prepare the data for them, which would make it easier for them to make the good decision. With this, I am very glad that I can share the podium not only with Mike Bloomberg, but also with Rebecca Moore, who is director of Google Earth, and I'm sure she will tell us how we can use data better for the mayors in the future. Thank you.
On behalf of Google, thank you, Mayor Bloomberg, for your leadership, and Vice President Šefčovič for yours on climate and energy. As Google, we are very excited to partner with the Global Covenant of Mayors and Bloomberg Philanthropy on this Innovate4Cities initiative. As Mayor Bloomberg said, more than 9,000 cities have taken a pledge for climate action. But it turns out most of them have not even been able to get started because they need to assess their carbon emissions due to the transportation, due to building energy, and what is the solar energy potential, for example, to reduce their carbon footprint. But how do they even get started? A few cities have done this. It costs many hundreds of thousands of dollars. It takes many, many months. So most cities have been blocked. Meanwhile, Google has some capabilities in cloud computing, in machine learning, and in mapping. Think of Google Maps. Perhaps some of you used to get here today and you didn't get lost, so that's good. But imagine opening Google Earth or Google Maps and looking at the 3D photorealistic cityscape. We've collected all that data initially to let people look at it. But it turns out, through a kind of digital environmental alchemy, we can derive climate-relevant insights for the mayors of those cities. We can derive what is, for example, the building emissions likely to be from those buildings? From traffic data, we can derive what is the carbon emissions from the transportation sector. We can even derive what is the solar potential of all of the roofs in your city. And in fact, when we made that first set of that data available, the city of San Jose realized they had the potential to generate more than 3 gigawatts of renewable energy power from solar in their city, and they took an ambitious pledge to be, I believe it's the first gigawatt solar city in America. So this is the power of enabling these mayors with the data they need to make these data-driven climate action decisions. So again, I think our focus is how can we help thousands of cities around the world, thousands of mayors and their staff, not have to worry about measuring. Let them focus on doing. And that is good for all of us and for the planet. Thank you very much. Okay. Yes, questions?
Thank you very much. Sebastian Mallow with Reuters. I was wondering if you could tell me when this will begin, today, and also whether this data will be available to all cities around the world or only members of the Global Covenant Mayors?
Great. We've just launched this in the last couple weeks. We have had the very first unveiling of the tool that we call the Environmental Insights Explorer. It is publicly available. Anyone can go. It's not just for the cities. If you go to insights.sustainability.google, you will find it. We've started with 5 pilot cities, Buenos Aires, Melbourne, let's see, Pittsburgh, Victoria, and Mountain View. Oddly enough, Mountain View, where Google's located. We have the ability ultimately to do this for thousands of cities with the global data that we have, but we wanted to start carefully with a few cities and make sure that what we're producing is relevant, is actionable, is exactly what they need. And so if you go to the tool today, you will see a drop down that says choose a city, and there are 5 listed. There's also a link that says if you are a city and you are interested in participating, let us know, because this is a beta. We've already had more than 150 cities from all over the world write to us and say they would like to participate. So it does appear that we may be onto something.
Any other questions from the audience? Are there any other questions from the audience? Are there any other questions from the audience? No more questions? Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, thank you so much. Really excited.
Let's be in touch. Yeah,
Yes.
absolutely.
Question? Sorry. So, what question?
Who is going to answer my question? Okay, thank you very much. My name is Rebecca. I represent Caribbean News. And as you know, the Caribbean, we want to be the first resilient country in the world where climate change is concerned.
Yeah.
We don't hear anything about the Caribbean. How can we participate in these 5 solar cities? How can we get there?
You're absolutely right about the climate change impacts. And I think one of the future areas for this tool, by the way, would be how can we produce data sets to help cities and countries adapt to the effects of climate change, such as, for example, rising sea levels. We do have the ability to help governments visualize that data and take action, and we already have some tools that we've put in the hands of governments. I'd be happy to talk with you afterwards. But specifically, anyone can talk to our team here about joining as a trusted tester city, as the next wave of pilot cities. And as I mentioned, on the Environmental Insights Explorer tool website, you can indicate that you would like to participate. So I would love to have Caribbean cities do that. And also, maybe most importantly, the partnership with the Global Covenant of Mayors is key for us as Google, because they're helping to understand, maybe not just on a city-by-city basis, but regionally and so on, what are the common needs across these different regions of the world, and help facilitate the connections with those cities. So I would also encourage reaching out to Global Covenant of Mayors, mayors in the Caribbean and so on.